You're listening to the Cyberwire Network, powered by N2K.
And now, a word from our sponsor, CloudRange. At CloudRange, they believe cybersecurity readiness starts with people, not just technology. That's why their proactive simulation-based training helps security teams build confidence and skill from day one. By turning potential into performance, they empower SOC and incident response teams to respond quickly, smartly, and in sync with evolving threats. Learn how CloudRange is helping organizations stay ahead of cyber risks at www.cloudrange.com. Researchers release proof-of-concept exploits for Citrix Bleed 2. Grafana patches 4 high-severity vulnerabilities. A hacker claims to have breached Spanish telecom giant Telefónica. Italian police arrest a Chinese man wanted by U.S. authorities for alleged industrial espionage. Beware a new ransomware group called Bert. Call of Duty goes offline after reports of RCE vulnerabilities. President Trump's spending bill allocates hundreds of millions for cybersecurity. Nearly 26 million job seekers' resumes and personal data are leaked. CISA adds 4 actively exploited vulnerabilities to the Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog. For Threat Vector, host David Moulton speaks with Daniel Frank and Tom Fachterman from Palo Alto Network's threat research team about hunting threats in developer environments. And outsmarting AI scraper bots with math. It's Tuesday, July 8th, 2025. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. Thanks for joining us here today. It's great to have you with us. Researchers have released proof-of-concept exploits for Citrix Bleed 2, a critical flaw in Citrix NetScaler ADC and gateway devices. The bug lets attackers steal user session tokens by sending malformed post-login requests, revealing memory contents. Citrix Bleed 2 is similar to the 2023 Citrix Bleed flaw exploited by ransomware gangs. Technical analysis by Watchtower and Horizon 3 show that modifying the login parameter without an equal sign leaks roughly 127 bytes of memory per request, enabling repeated data theft. Citrix claims there's no active exploitation, but ReliaQuest and researcher Kevin Beaumont report evidence of attacks since mid-June. Citrix has released patches urging all organizations to apply them immediately and review sessions for suspicious activity before termination, as public exploits are now available. Grafana, an open-source data visualization and dashboard platform, released security updates to fix 4 high-severity vulnerabilities in its image renderer plugin and synthetic monitoring agent. The most critical is a type confusion flaw in Chrome's V8 engine exploiting a zero-day, allowing arbitrary read-write. Other patched bugs include type confusion enabling code execution, integer overflow, and use after free. Users should update to the latest versions. Cloud deployments are already patched. A hacker known as Ray, linked to the Hellcat ransomware group, claims to have stolen 106 gigabytes of data from Spanish telecom giant Telefónica in a May 30th breach. Ray says they exfiltrated the data over 12 hours due to a Jira misconfiguration. To prove the breach, the hacker leaked a 2.6 gigabyte archive containing over 20,000 files, including internal communications, invoices, customer records, and employee data. Telefónica has not acknowledged the breach, with one employee dismissing it as an extortion attempt using old data. However, leaked samples include email addresses of current employees and invoices for clients in Spain, Germany, Chile, and Peru. Ray warns they'll continue leaking data if Telefonica does not comply with undisclosed demands. Italian police arrested 33-year-old Zhu Ziwei, a Chinese man wanted by U.S. authorities for alleged industrial espionage targeting projects including COVID vaccine development. Zhu, from Shanghai, was detained at Milan's Malpensa airport under a U.S. arrest warrant linked to an FBI investigation. He's accused of being part of a hacking team that tried to access the University of Texas's COVID vaccine research in 2020. Charges include wire fraud, identity theft, and unauthorized computer access. Zhu faces an extradition hearing in Milan today. A new ransomware group called Bert is targeting healthcare, tech, and event services firms across Asia, Europe, and the U.S., according to Trend Micro. First identified in April, Bert's ransomware affects both Windows and Linux systems. While their exact access method is unclear, researchers found a PowerShell script that disables security tools before deploying the ransomware. Victims receive a ransom note saying, "Hello from Bert. Your network is hacked and files are encrypted." Bert's malware is under active development with multiple variants seen. Trend Micro noted possible ties to Russian infrastructure and found that Bert reuses code from REvil's Linux variant. REvil was dismantled in 2021, though Russian courts recently sentenced several unrelated REvil members for carding fraud, releasing them for time served in pretrial detention. The PC version of Call of Duty World War II was taken offline after reports of a remote code execution vulnerability allowing hackers to take over players' computers during live matches. The issue emerged shortly after the game was released on Xbox Game Pass on June 30th. Players shared videos showing their PCs freezing, executing Windows command files, shutting down, or displaying pornographic images. Malwarebytes researchers explained that older Call of Duty games switched to peer-to-peer networking instead of dedicated servers, exposing players to attacks from malicious hosts. Exploits targeting Call of Duty titles have existed for years, with previous proof-of-concept RCEs published on Steam. Activision has not confirmed if the takedown was directly due to the exploit, and no further updates have been posted since July 5th. A report from Cyberscoop examines President Trump's tax and spending bill, which allocates hundreds of millions for cybersecurity, mostly for military programs. U.S. Cyber Command will receive $250 million for artificial intelligence initiatives, while DARPA gains $20 million for cybersecurity research. Indo-Pacific Command gets $1 million for cyber offensive operations targeting adversaries like Russia, China, and North Korea. The Defense Department will use $90 million partly to support cybersecurity for non-traditional contractors. The Coast Guard's $2.2 billion maintenance budget includes cyber asset upkeep, while $170 million for maritime domain awareness also covers cyber. The only civilian cyber funding is in a rural health program, allowing grants for cybersecurity capability development. Democrats criticized the bill for ignoring CISA funding, accusing Republicans of neglecting national cybersecurity threats despite growing attacks from foreign adversaries and criminals. TalentHook, an applicant tracking system owned by Resource Edge, leaked nearly 26 million job seekers' resumes and personal data due to a misconfigured Azure blob storage container left publicly accessible. Exposed information includes names, emails, phone numbers, education details, work history, and some home addresses. The leak, discovered in January but disclosed in April, poses phishing and fraud risks for affected individuals. It remains unclear if TalentHook has secured the data, and no official count of impacted people has been released. CISA added 4 actively exploited vulnerabilities to its Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog: an MRLG buffer overflow issue, PHP mailer command injection, Ruby on Rails path traversal, and Zimbra SSRF. These pose significant risks to federal networks, and under Binding Operational Directive 22-01, federal agencies must remediate these by set deadlines. Coming up after the break, for Threat Vector, host David Moulton speaks with Daniel Frank and Tom Fachterman from Palo Alto Network's threat research team about hunting threats in developer environments. And outsmarting AI scraper bots with math. Stay with us. Compliance regulations, third-party risk, and customer security demands are all growing and changing fast. Is your manual GRC program actually slowing you down? If you're thinking there has to be something more efficient than spreadsheets, screenshots, and all those manual processes, you're right. GRC can be so much easier, and it can strengthen your security posture while actually driving revenue for your business. You know, one of the things I really like about Vanta is how it takes the heavy lifting out of your GRC program. Their trust management platform automates those key areas: compliance, internal and third-party risk, and even customer trust, so you're not buried under spreadsheets and endless manual tasks. Vanta really streamlines the way you gather and manage information across your entire business. And this isn't just theoretical. A recent IDC analysis found that compliance teams using Vanta are 129% more productive. It's a pretty impressive number. So what does it mean for you? It means you get back more time and energy to focus on what actually matters, like strengthening your security posture and scaling your business. Vanta, GRC. Just imagine how much easier trust can be. Visit vanta.com/cyber to sign up today for a free demo. That's vanta.com/cyber. CISOs and CIOs know machine identities now outnumber humans by more than 80-1. And without securing them, trust, uptime, outages, and compliance are at risk. CyberArk is leading the way with the only unified platform purpose-built to secure every machine identity, certificates, secrets, and workloads across all environments, all clouds, and all AI agents. Designed for scale, automation, and quantum readiness, CyberArk helps modern enterprises secure their machine future. Visit cyberark.com/machines to see how. On our latest Threat Vector segment, host David Moulton speaks with Daniel Frank and Tom Fachterman from Palo Alto Network's threat research team about hunting threats in developer environments.
Hi, I'm David Moulton, host of the Threat Vector podcast, where we break down cybersecurity threats, resilience, and the industry's trends that matter the most. This week, we're pulling back the curtain on an attack vector you're probably not watching, but should be. I sat down with Tom Fachterman and Daniel Frank from our threat research team to talk about how trusted developer tools, think things like Visual Studio Code, low-code platforms, and even public repos, are being turned into malware delivery systems by some of the most advanced threat actors out there. In this episode, we dug into the red flags you're probably missing in your CI/CD pipeline, why the new insider threat might not even know they're an insider, and how North Korean attackers are quietly siphoning off crypto and IP without ever breaching the perimeter. If you care about securing your dev environments, don't miss this episode. It's called Hunting Threats in Developer Environments, and it's live now in your Threat Vector feed. So Tom, set us up. Why are low-code, no-code environments becoming so popular for developers?
So that's a good question. So I would say that now with the rise of AI and everything, you see that a lot and more people don't need or want to know how to actually code to do all the stuff that they want to do in their day-to-day work. And that's exactly what low-code platforms gives the user, the ability to create sophisticated automations without needing to know how to program.
What kind of threats are you seeing in these platforms specifically?
Okay, so local platforms, what they do is that they offer a lot of these powerful features. I mean, they can access things like users' files, they can access their clipboard, and even their internet connection. And this is just like to name a few, right? And the best part, it's all done through an easy-to-use interface, so you don't need to be a coding expert or anything close to that. But here's the problem. So if an attacker gets hold on one of these platforms, they can create these automated workflows for all kinds of malicious activities and without needing to deploy any extra malware. I mean, it's like they got this built-in toolkit to do a lot of damage without even trying too hard.
How are the tactics different from like a traditional supply chain attack or backdoors planted in build processes?
Well, I'd say that the main difference is that in supply chain attacks, the attackers need to find a way to insert malware into an installation process of this legitimate software or the other. But in this type of attacks that we're talking about, all the attackers really need is good social engineering skills to gain access to a developer's IDE and some bad intentions. I mean, it's that simple.
Tom, what telemetry or visibility gaps are allowing attackers to operate inside development tools without detection?
Yeah, so this is where things get kind of tricky. One of the biggest challenges with dealing with IDE abuse is that at the end of the day, these are legitimate applications. And usually they are trusted in the environment. So it is not out of the ordinary for them to perform a lot of activity. So when they are doing stuff like accessing the file system, reaching out to external servers, or spawning processes, that's not necessarily malicious. And that's exactly what attackers are banking on. They're hiding in plain sight. So this can make it hard for defenders to differentiate between day-to-day use of an IDE and malicious abuse by a threat actor.
What's going to need to change the most environments to close these gaps?
I would say the first step, like with a lot of these problems, is awareness. You've got to actually recognize that IDEs, while of course are essential, can also be attack surfaces. The next step will be to work on tailored detections and hunting queries. You need to understand what normal behavior looks like for tools like VS Code and what sticks out. And that takes some environment-specific tuning.
For defenders out there, what are some of the high-fidelity indicators of compromise, or maybe even the behavioral patterns that are tied to the developer platform abuse?
So obviously, the exact indicators can shift depending on the technique and the attacker's playbook. But there are definitely some patterns that we see that are popping up over and over again. One of the biggest red flags we see is when an IDE spawns a shell process, like a CMD or a PowerShell. And when those shells start running things like recon commands, trying to map the network, pull credentials, or even move laterally, well, at this point, you should have the alarm ringing.
Oh, for sure. Hey, can you share any success stories where those techniques were detected really early?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I love that question. So I have one story that happened pretty recently. And it is related to a campaign we call Contagious Interview. And we actually explored that one in our RSI conference session. So in this campaign, North Korean threat actors were posing as recruiters. And they were trying to trick developers into running malicious code under the guise of a fake job interview. Hence the name Contagious Interview. And we spent a lot of time dissecting that campaign and mapping out the different TTPs. And we've created a lot of different detections around their techniques. And not long after our investigation, we actually started seeing this threat actor attempting to target our customers using very similar TTPs. But because of all of the work that we did on them, Cortex XDR was ready. And it blocked all their malicious attempts. And this is an idea that we really focus on in our team. That research isn't just a theory, it directly powers our defenses.
Daniel, what are some of the proactive ways organizations can secure their development environments without slowing down their developers?
This is a really important question, David, and I'm glad you asked it. Well, there are a few ways organizations can secure their development environments, but I will highlight two main ones. Well, first off, before running any code, from outside sources, like third-party code, and this is something that we talked about a lot during our RSA conference presentation. So it's really important to scan that code either manually or automatically, and this goes for code you're importing into existing projects or when you're starting a new project, and the same also applies for extensions. Now, the second and probably even more important point is that regular security awareness training is key. Everyone in the company should be trained, but it's especially crucial for developers in this case to be aware of these kinds of threats and know how to recognize them.
If this got your attention, don't wait. Listen to the full episode now in your Threat Vector podcast feed. It's called Hunting Threats in Developer Environments, and it's live now. This one's a wake-up call. Don't let it fly under your radar.
And you can check out the complete Threat Vector program right here on the N2K CyberWire network or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And now, a word from our sponsor, ThreatLocker, the powerful zero-trust enterprise solution that stops ransomware in its tracks. Allow Listing is a deny-by-default software that makes application control simple and fast. Ring fencing is an application containment strategy, ensuring apps can only access the files, registry keys, network resources, and other applications they truly need to function. Shut out cybercriminals with world-class endpoint protection from ThreatLocker.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
And finally, an article from 404 Media reminds us that AI bots scraping web pages might sound harmless, just machines reading text, right? But when these bots hammer sites relentlessly to harvest data for training AI models, small servers crash under the strain, users get locked out, and entire communities could lose their online homes. Enter Ziya So, a developer whose Git server collapsed under an Amazon bot's enthusiastic clicks. Her solution? Anubis, a free open-source uncaptcha that forces visitors' browsers to do cryptographic math, which is easy for humans but prohibitively expensive for bots scraping millions of pages. Since January, Anubis has been downloaded nearly 200,000 times, protecting projects like GNOME and FFmpeg. He also jokes that poisoning AI datasets is like peeing in the ocean, and says if AI companies want to stop her work, they should distract her with a top-tier Final Fantasy expansion. Until then, she'll keep fine-tuning Anubis in the never-ending quest to keep the small internet alive against hungry bots. And that's the Cyberwire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. We'd love to hear from you. We're conducting our annual audience survey to learn more about our listeners. We're collecting your insights through the end of this summer. There's a link in the show notes. Please do check it out. N2K's senior producer is Alice Carruth. Our Cyberwire producer is Liz Stokes. were mixed by Elliot Peltzman and Trey Hester, with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Iben. Peter Kilpie is our publisher, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow. And now a word from our sponsor, SpyCloud. Identity is the new battleground, and attackers are exploiting stolen identities to infiltrate your organization. Traditional defenses can't keep up. SpyCloud's holistic identity threat protection helps security teams uncover and automatically remediate hidden exposures across your users, from breaches, malware, and phishing to neutralize identity-based threats like account takeover, fraud, and ransomware. Don't let invisible threats compromise your business. Get your free corporate darknet exposure report at spycloud.com/cyberwire and see what attackers already know. That's spycloud.com/cyberwire.